Greetings and salutations, Michigan Ultimate Survivor League members. It is I, James L. Seagraves, your commissioner. We have a kid waking up in the background already. I knew this would happen soon. Didn't think it happened 2 seconds into the podcast, but it is what it is. Anyway, so welcome to the Michigan Ultimate Survivor League's 10-year edition. 10th year anniversary edition is going to be the best year of MUSL ever. I can promise you that much. Some of you may know me personally. Some of you may have seen me on these podcasts. Some of you have no idea who I am, but I am the commissioner. And together, myself and this big neck zit that I have right here are going to do this podcast. It's going to be a very lengthy podcast. We're going to break down everything you need to know about this league, the history of the league, the players that are, I should say the owners, and we're going to do a conference-by-conference breakdown of who's who. We randomized the conferences this morning. I'm going to break down the scoring, the payoffs, or the playoff, payouts, etc. Whole 9 yards going to be here. So this is it. Might get weird when my kid wakes up and needs something from me, but, I mean, he's kind of stirring right now anyway, but I had to get it going because we got a big full slate of stuff to do today. By the way, Game of Thrones season premiere, or series premiere, House of the Dragon is tonight. If you want to come out and you live in Jackson or area, come on down. We're doing a party at my suite down in the Commonwealth Commerce Center. Anyway, here we go. Let's see if I can actually not trigger the audio to go this time. All right, cool. We are here. So, introduction. As I mentioned, I'm James L. Seagraves. This is the Michigan Ultimate Survivor League. This is the greatest league of all time. I've been in fantasy football since I was in 3rd grade when you have to do it with a newspaper and pen and paper and stuff like that. My brother and I, well, my brother technically started it. I kind of inherited the league. Was in the same league for about 25 years, and then a couple of years ago, due to a scheduling conflict, I missed a draft, and I have not been able to get back in. But I don't really care because this is all that matters. This is the Ultimate Survivor League. Unlike any other league you've ever been in, I promise you. Because, I mean, it's very unique. It's very unique. Hello, kid. Let's break down real quick how the league history here is very easy. This is the 10th year, started in 2012. The first ever winner was one of the co-commissioners, the co-founder of this league, Richard Perez, who won in 2012 and he's been kind of here and there in the league. He is not in this year. He was not in last year, but he was in 2 years ago. And he kind of comes and goes as he pleases because he's a busy dude. This is the 10th year, and of the 9 seasons we've done, I guess, 7 of the champions are going to be here this year. That's not true. 6 of the champions are going to be here. We're missing 3. Richard Perez, the next year his brother Eric Perez won, who has a lifetime ban from the league. Long story. And then, believe it or not, Scott Miller, who won just a couple of years ago, him and his wife both decided to sit this year out, which is disappointing because we want to have as many champions as we can. But we have multiple champions back for the first time in a little bit. So I think it might be a little too loud here. I'm going to turn this down just a bit. There we go. So, yeah. That's it. Started off with like 42 teams. It's gone as high as 96 teams twice in 2014 and 15 maybe. There were 96 teams. It's kind of bounced between 72 and 84 for the last several years. This year I kind of called on some recruits and said, hey, let's try to make it magical. It's the 10th year, and a lot of owners have come back. I'll talk about those in a little bit. So the league setup is going to be, as most of you probably know, this is not like your regular fantasy football league. There are no rosters. There is no draft. Basically, anyone can start anyone they want any week, with the one major caveat being that you can only start the same player one time all season long, all throughout the NFL regular season. It's very important to note because we do also do a playoff challenge here. I'm going to turn this mic down a little bit more so I stop clipping. The playoff challenge takes place during the NFL playoffs, but during the MUSL playoffs, which is going to be weeks 12 through 16, I think, then you will have your players will stay on the go. I mean, once you use them, you can't use them for those playoffs. So it is very hard. I liken this league a lot to the NCAA bracket, in the fact that you cannot. I mean, you can know a lot about football. You can know a lot about college basketball, but your brackets still get busted. You can know a lot about football in this, but in the end, there's still a lot of luck involved too. So there's that. So that's the unique thing about the setup. You will notice that if you look at the website, first of all, the website is myfantasyleague.com. It's a little wonky, and the apps are really wonky. If you have an iPhone, it's not too bad. If you have an Android, there's a thing called MFL Platinum you can download. But I personally don't. I mean, I'll never own an iPhone. I use an Android through and through, but I just don't like the app. I actually go right through Chrome. MyFantasyLeague.com is where you go, and you'll see that we have, there are 8 12-team conferences this year. All the conferences are named after I think, the most iconic characters in comedy films. We'll go through those in a minute. You probably know who most of these people are. Maybe you don't. But we're going to go through here, and we're going to go to the setup, and we're going to show you how we do the lineups. That'll be the first thing we're going to do. Starting lineup setup, you have 1 quarterback, 1 running back, 2 wide receivers, 1 tight end, 1 kicker, 1 defense, and then you have a flex that can be a running back, wide receiver, or tight end. Pretty standard stuff here, folks. Not a big deal. This is okay. So one thing you will notice when you go to submit your lineup is that you can't see anybody's lineup, and in fact, even during the Thursday night games, you can't even check the live scoring because, as in an effort to prevent collusion, no collusion, people, we actually have a few things in place, I should say. One of which is you cannot see your opponent's lineup until kickoff at Sunday 1 o'clock games. That way people don't look at the other person's lineup and just change one person, So this way all the lineups are hidden until kickoff at 1 p.m. on Sunday. That is very important to note because new owners especially might be all hyped to get on there and check the live scoring on Thursday night and they can't see anything. Now, the next day, you can go back and you can check, and it'll show you like who scored, like what the points were. You can track that down, but I mean, really, the rosters do not get revealed until 1:01 p.m. on Sunday. On that note, also mentioned with the lineups here, there's no exceptions on, I couldn't get my lineup in because, I don't know, I have Sprint or whatever, and the service wasn't working. By the way, if you have Sprint or T-Mobile, come see me. I work at the West Ave. Verizon, shameless plug. Tuesdays and Thursdays only, though. So this is that. So if you do not get your lineup in, it's basically, no good. Now, if for some reason you can't get the site to work, because it does flake out every once in a while, if you text me or Facebook message me prior to 1 o'clock with what you want your lineup to be, that is allowed. We have had a few issues in the past where people can't, for whatever reason, the site won't work, so they text me their lineup, and I will put it in. And sometimes it goes in after 1 o'clock, and people are like, wow, what's going on? That's just how it is, man. I mean, I've run this league for 12 years, or 10 years rather, since 2012. I've never won. The highest I've ever done is, the Elite 8. So trust me, I'm not cheating, because if I was cheating, I would probably win more, but I don't. So that's that. In terms of the lineups, that is important to note. And then in terms of scoring's pretty standard. We've changed things around a little bit from last year. Last year we experimented with sacks and stuff. Didn't really care for it, honestly. So we're back to our standard scoring of quarterbacks score 4 points for a touchdown, wide receivers, running backs, tight ends, all of them score 6 points for a touchdown. It is fractional-based scoring, which is great because if you look at, as you see some of these histories here in a little bit, there have been ties in the past. Very hard to get a tie these days because instead of getting 1 point for every 50 yards passing, quarterbacks will score 0.02 points for every yard they throw. And so it ends up being 1 point for every 50 points, but therefore if you throw for 51 yards, or more importantly, you throw for 199 yards, you don't get denied that extra point just because you missed the yard. You get basically 0.99 points or whatever, 0.98 points, I guess, would be in that situation. And running backs are the same way, except for running backs, receivers, tight ends are the same way, except for I believe it's 20 yards or maybe 25 yards. I think it's 20 yards. It's in the thing. You can see this if you go to the reports, rules, league scoring, etc. Which, I'll show you that here in a minute too, but let's click it right now. Why not? This will show you 0.02 points to 0.05, so it is 20 yards. Okay. Now, the other things you want to know is that, and I'm not a fan of PPR. I think it's stupid, but A long time ago, the old co-commissioner and I had this debate. He wanted to do full point PPR, and I'm like, I'll shut this league down before I do that. So I think it's dumb. But nevertheless, 0.5 PPR, it's there. I could easily override it now, but it's been there so long I don't really want to because I don't want to mess with the historic scoring, And so that's that. You get 2 points if you get a two-pointer, passing or throwing. And, field goals, the longer they are, the more they're worth. Extra points are worth a half point. You lose a fumble, it's worth -2 points. And if you throw an interception, it's worth -2 points as well. So there are points taken away for turnovers. But we got rid of the sacks and all that stuff. That was kind of dumb. Defense scoring, you can check this all out. Like I said, I had to zoom in my window here so you can't see the entire window, but it goes down. Defensive touchdowns are worth 4 points, but then you also get 2 points for the interception or fumble, so they're really worth 6 points. So that's that, the scoring. Now, the next thing on this list here is going to be the randomizer, which is always a hot button topic. But when we started this league, we had, I believe 40-some teams. In fact, let me look here. You can actually click on this thing, and it'll show you every league. If you've been in this league before, it'll show you all the leagues you've been in. The 2012 league, I believe, had 40-some teams. Let's go to league setup here. Yeah, 40 teams entirely. So they had 40 leagues, or 40 teams in the league, and therefore people knew other people a lot easier than they do these days with the 96 teams for people all over the country too, by the way. So, not that I don't trust people, although we did have one major issue, as mentioned earlier, with the lifetime ban. What we did not want to have happen is down the road in the year, if your team is out of playoff contention, more on that in a little bit too, and you're playing someone who has a chance to win, you're not allowed to just not start a team. Or, more importantly, even if it wasn't a collusion effort, someone just didn't submit a lineup, and you need that team to lose in order to have a chance at the playoffs. Nobody gets automatic wins in this league, period. Doesn't happen. If someone were to really want to collude, they could probably just start a bunch of crap players, but it's going to be pretty obvious if they start David Blau for any reason, if he was starting. So the randomizer was born right from the get-go, and what that is that, week one, let's hope to God we don't have any randomizers week one, first of all, but week one being the exception. Once week one is in the books, week two happens, obviously, and any point from week 2 through the end of the year, including the third place game, as happened last year, because apparently the guy didn't watch these podcasts and realize it was the third place game, the randomizer will strike. The randomizer will strike in the following method. They will pull at random, hence the name, players, depending on the position. If it's a one-start position, aka quarterback, kicker, defense, tight end, it'll pull the players from who are ranked 13th through 32nd in scoring. If it is a two-start position, it'll pull ranks 24 through 50 in scoring. So that basically means running backs and wide receivers, they will be, the running backs they're going to pull through 24. I think it actually is 60, honestly, for wide receivers. But nevertheless, they get randomized, they get thrown in there. Now, the randomizer will not start anyone on a bye. It will not start anyone who is clearly marked injured on the site. But if someone is benched or something like that, or is a game time decision, they're injured and they don't play, too bad. Should have started a lineup. That's what I got to say about that. So the randomizer, it keeps going. The one exception to the randomizer is in the what's called the suck bracket, which I will talk about here in a little bit. There are no randomizers in there because there's really no point. Because people just give up, which is lame, but it is what it is. So there's that. Now going on to how to use this site. As I mentioned, I'm only going to talk about the online version of it, or the web version of it. Everything's online, obviously. Jeez Louise. My setup is a little different because I'm logged in as a commissioner, but I'm going to go to become owner here, so you'll see the regular owner page. Now again, normally we'll have this podcast right in this big section here that says YouTube video. The latest podcast will be here. In fact, I'm going to put this one here in a few, probably 20 minutes or so. Got to upload it to YouTube first. And also, you can follow us on YouTube, me on YouTube. It's just my personal channel. It's not... Yeah, and, Renly, my son wants you to follow him. We're going to make a monster truck video channel someday. Yeah, Racing Channel. Renly's Racing Network. I don't know what we're going to call it. Renly's Entertainment Network, REN, which is his name. Anyway, so to use your lineup, okay, so some people get confused on this because they go to add, drop, play, or whatever. You don't do that. To make a lineup, very critical. You go to 4 owners, and you go to submit lineup. Yep, sounds pretty crazy, right? So this is cool because people ask me, it's like, well, does it keep track of who you play and who you don't play? Yes, it does, thank God. Otherwise, we wouldn't do this league. So this will show you the players. This will have their weekly projections. It'll also have their injured on here, okay? This is, and again, it looks a little different on the website, or on the app. App is not fantastic, like I said. I prefer using on Chrome. But you can choose quarterback, and this will show you weekly projected. Now, normally it'll show season points too, but being that this is the first week, obviously it doesn't have. So if you wanted to start Patrick Mahomes against the Cardinals, you could. You select his name, hit add, and then move on to the next one. Then you go to running back. We'll say, well, Dalvin Cook sounds good, and Joe Mixon sounds good. So on and so forth. You go through here and do this. Stephon Diggs, who's playing the Lions week 1? I don't know. Deebo Samuel. This would be a pretty good lineup, but you can do whatever you want, like I said. Oh, Mark Andrews was starting his ass. And then Chris Boswell, defense, we're going to do the Patriots at Miami. Okay, now, keep in mind, this is not done because you've not submitted the lineup. So you see this little submit lineup button right here? Yep, submit lineup. You hit that, and it'll submit. Now, normally, if you have your email options set correctly, it'll actually email you a copy of this. But you will get this confirmation page that'll say your lineup is submitted. I hope I don't forget to change this. I won't. But still, so there's that. That's how you submit your lineup. Most critical thing you get. Okay, but there's a lot of cool tabs on here if you want to see how to use this. We'll go home first again real quick. Now this here, you could probably hide these stupid things. I'm not going to win $500,000, although I would. I was at a house. I DJ'd at an event last night that was formerly owned by George Blaha's brother. She just bought it. My wife looked it up. Verizon customer of mine. $2.3 million she paid for this house. Pretty awesome. Their sunroom was about as big as my entire house. But yeah, right downtown Ann Arbor too. What do you? It's not called a sun porch in this room. It's a sunroom. It's not a porch. But anyway, I need you to let me do my thing, okay, bud? Okay. All right. So then we have some tabs here. Most of these are not very useful, honestly. Preparing for battle. You click this. It'll show you the week 1 schedule. Show you your lineup if it's in. If you don't see anything here, then you got a problem. Newest articles if people are hurt, whatever. Player records is kind of cool. If you want to look back here, I'll show you more on the records thing here. But Alvin Kamara had the all-time highest thing, and nobody started him. 2020, week 16. He scored 46.1 points. Jonathan Taylor in 2021 scored 41.7, and nobody started him. 2012, way back in the day, the Seattle Seahawks scored 41 points. We had a couple people starting him then. And Jamal Charles also didn't. I mean, it's funny. The 3 out of 4 top scoring people of all time were not started by anyone the week they scored those things. So that's kind of cool. Game day. You click here. This will just show you who's logged in recently. It's kind of nice. Commissioner, that's me. Also Providence Power. CD's Nuts logged in not too long ago. 99 Rocky Keeling. The Black Hole. Locked in. You know, you can see. And then this also shows you the live scoring, too. When it's happening, you can just hit game day and it'll go to live scoring, which is nice. News, though this is kind of irrelevant for our league. My team, also irrelevant for this, unless it'll show your history and stuff like that. And also, there's a submit lineup button here you can check too if you want to go that route. And then you go up here, obviously there's submit lineup here. So this is all over the place. Anywhere it says submit lineup, that's what you want to hit. Player stats, this is useful. You can see who's what. You know, this is from 2017. Standings, well, that's kind of on the home page. Live scoring, there it is again. You can hit that. And that'll take you there. And, of course, your schedule. This is actually the schedule for the entire league. Now, again, we have a lot of teams, so this is all 1 week, this one column here. So that's that. And if you go to reports, you can go to franchise. You can check a couple cool things you can do here. Franchise and go to scoring history. You can actually see if you check in your opponent, if you want. Like now, again, right now is not a good example. It'll show who they've started and who they haven't started, which is kind of neat. So if you can kind of do a little research there. Top performers, we know about that. Standings, rules, league scoring, league settings, league, live scoring summary, monthly league count. This is all kind of dumb. But records, now this is kind of cool. We can go to like all-time records. Player records, this will show you again what we already saw here. Alvin Kamara. But you can also see the career records of people. And again, this will show you the seasons they've been in. Some of these people have been in since the beginning. Play with Mike Ditka there, for example. And we're going to go over these here in a minute when we go through the conference by conference breakdown. But, I mean, just a couple things. You can mess around with this stuff. It's kind of fun. All right, so we're back. Sorry, I don't know what happened there. I thought I did the math right, but hey, you know, it's early. It's my first podcast of the year, so we're going to just deal with the fact that we made an error. Anyway, this is the number we were supposed to see here. So, despite the fact there's 96 teams this year, there are fewer teams making the playoffs than there were last year, only because we want to maintain the integrity of a conference championship, not only winning you some money, but also getting you a bye in that first round of the playoffs, which is critical, absolutely critical to get that first round bye. Because that's 1 week you could just not start anybody. That's when you're playing a Survivor League and you have to get rid of players every time you play them. Well, needless to say, if you don't have to start anybody, it is a huge advantage. So nevertheless, 24 teams make the playoffs. Playoffs will start in week 12. Okay, now, again, if you're conference championship, not only do you get a bye, but you also will get a $50 prize sent to you at the, well, presumably at the end of the, we try to do this at the end of the regular MUSL season, so people get their money immediately. Some people choose to defer and wait until after the playoffs are done, so you get one lump sum, but we try to keep the bookkeeping easy nevertheless. Playoffs will start in week 12, they will go through week 16. Now, this is what I was trying to pull up before. This is what your bracket will look like. Cool, thank you, PDF viewer, you piece of garbage. Anyway, so seeds 1 through 8 will have byes. This will be week 12, week 13, week 14, week 15, and then week 16 is your finale. Now, this is for the regular bracket. This is not for the suck bracket, which I'll talk about in just a second. Historically, the NFL had 17 weeks, and week 17 didn't mean much. So a lot of fantasy football leagues just got used to doing their finals week 16 anyway. Survivor League is a little different because you didn't, if you had Patrick Mahomes on your regular fantasy league and you had to not play him because he got benched for, whatever, Survivor League just wouldn't start him. But nevertheless, we're sticking with history here. We historically have started most of the years we've started the playoffs in week 12. So we're sticking with it. Now, the suck bracket will go through week 17 or even 18. Now, let's talk about how the playoffs work. A little controversial here, but it is something that we have tried and true method that works. So the 8 conference winners get a bye, obviously. And then your next 10 teams will get in based on record. Okay? So every win's important to you, obviously. And then when you take out those 18 teams between the conference winners and the 10 teams with the best record, now the next 3 are teams that get in based solely on the number of points they have scored. So if you are 3 and 13, or well, I guess that wouldn't be the case, it'd be 3 and 8 in this league, but you've lost every game by like 1 point, you will get in based on your number of points scored. And again, this takes out the top 18 teams. So like this gets a little wild. This is why you see these weird scenarios at the end of the year where teams who aren't very good historically will just fire out super lineups to try to score as many points as possible. It makes it really exciting. Some people don't like this. Most people like it because it keeps it fun. Now, the next thing is something that's very controversial, and that is you have your lottery. So after we take out the conference winners, we take out the best records, we take out the teams with the most points, the teams that are left get put into a wheel, much like this wheel right here that you will see, hopefully, at some point in time. Oh my god, I'm in the wrong league! Oh well. This is probably the right one. Hey, it's first podcast. This wheel right here, you will see this.
Good morning.
And you can probably, maybe you can hear this, maybe you can't, but nevertheless, this wheel will spin, go over this, and this is what happens. This is how we determine. Oh, and this is when I had a sore throat. Spin the wheel. All the teams are in there. Every win is a notch on the wheel. I'll go through here, and this will say last year this was who won this one. This was Super Original. He's back. God, I sound like a Mickey Mouse wannabe. But yeah, so that's how that works. So each win you get you a slice on that wheel, one chance of getting in to the playoffs. Now, again, some of the people in this playoff breakdowns I'm going to go through, they've got playoff appearances based on on that wheel. So, nevertheless. And then we go payouts. Payouts shifted a little bit. Not as much as you'd think because there's more conferences to pay out winners to. Anyway, conference champions, you win your conference, you're going to win $50 right off the top. If you make it to the final four, you get $50 no matter what. If you win the third place game, you will win an extra $70. This is increased from last year. Was only $50. Now you get $70, so you get $120 total. Second place game, or the second place finisher, will now get a bonus of $300 as opposed to $200 from last year. So it went from $300 to $350. I feel like I'm talking about the budget, which I am kind of. And then the biggest hit, obviously, the first place winner this year will get a $750 bonus. So he'll win a total of, or he or she, it's been she multiple times, including last year, will win a grand total of $800, not counting if they won their championship too. So they could win $850. And again, prize pools aren't as increased as you'd think because we have to put another $100 into the conference championships. And then I gave an extra $20 to third place to make it nice, even $800. Now, you do all the math, you will see that, yes, indeed, these numbers don't fully add up. My wife and I play this league for free, I'll tell you right now, because we put a lot of work into this, especially me. And then we have two teams that get comped every year based on the following, which, again, we'll talk about. We will talk about, and of course the site costs like $120 too. When you get to the playoffs, if you don't get drafted into the playoffs, you will go through, you get entered into what's called the suck bracket. The suck bracket, S-U-K, it's a play on the MIT. If you win the suck bracket, which I will show you here, reports, league, playoff brackets. This was last year's, by the way. Come on, you slow hook. Anyway, so this is the suck bracket. All the teams that are left go into the suck bracket here. And again, this is a consolation bracket, but it keeps your season going through the regular season, through the playoffs here, through the regular season playoffs. The NFL playoff, NFL regular season, fantasy playoffs. My God, I got to get over this. So this is how this works. As you see, there's a ton of teams. This year there'll be even more because there's 96 teams as opposed to 80 or 84. This is the one time the randomizer doesn't kick in. So if you notice here, Aiken for a ship and J Footman can. Neither of them even bothered to submit a lineup, so nobody won. So they got a tie. So the Dublin Drunks, Jeff Arbogast, moved on to the next round. Now, one of these things, I think someone went through two ties at some point. Maybe I'm wrong. Okay, I think I must be wrong. But maybe that was last year. Yeah, so there are no randomizers. We don't have time. We don't care when it gets that late. What are you doing? Stop with that. Yeah. Okay. So if you win this, you will win free entry into next year, which is how Nick Harris, not one of the Columbine kids, joke's so old, but I can't stop, especially when there's Josh Harris back in the day. He won the he won the suck bracket, gets free entry into this year. And the other person who gets free entry next year is that once this NFL season is over, there is a MUSL playoff challenge where all the rosters are reset and you start whoever you want again. But that is a points-only league, so you don't play head-to-head. Just get as many points you can through the Super Bowl.
Yep.
Okay, now I need you to back up because I got to do something very important here. Because it is time to break down the conferences here, folks. This is something that I took a great amount of time compiling all this data. Hopefully you're still with me here. We are at 30 minutes. Oh, my God. Of course, I had a 45-minute pause there, too. But nevertheless, here we go. We're going to go conference by conference. We're going to start with the Jeff Lebowski conference. Here we go. As we go look at the Jeff Lebowski conference, here's what we have. We have, where are we at here? Here we go. Wish it would have been this setup. Oh my God. Where are you at, stupid thing? That's what we're looking for. Cool. Glad the music's been going this whole time. Anyway, the Jeff Lebowski conference, we have James Seagraves, Pat Provost, Patrick McNamara, Maddie Bradley, Nick Harris, whatever. You can read the names. But what's important here is we have this broken down into a couple different things. We have playoff points. This is basically scored how I score the Smash Brothers tournaments that we used to do. For every round you make it to, you get an X amount of points, and it goes up every round. So basically, the higher points here, the better you've done in the past. So out of the 12 teams in the playoffs, we have 12 teams in this conference. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Half of them have made the playoffs in the past. One winner, you notice Cloacal Kiss here has a gold bar. That means she has won. She's actually the defending champion, folks. So she has made it all the way to the top. Bonnie Monahan returning for the first time in 2 years. Historically, a great owner. As you see, she has a 56% winning percentage. 22. She's actually done more in the playoffs for a longer amount of time than Maddie Bradley has. But Maddie Bradley had the one big run last year and won. As well as Pat Provost. Who knows what kind of team he'll have, name he'll have when it comes. All I know is I can guarantee you it'll be something negative about liberals. That's all I can tell you. Patrick McNamara's second year, or third year coming in now. Never made the playoffs. And then we have a slew of new owners. Steve Garrity is not a new owner. He's a returning owner. He's been in here a while. He's come so close to making the playoffs. Just not made the playoffs. Then, of course, myself. I'm in this one as well. I've never done well. Furthest I've ever made it is to the Elite 8. So, I mean, that's that. What am I going to do? 65-64 overall. 88 playoff points. Pretty good conference here. Not the greatest, as you'll see. We move down to the Kirk Lazarus conference here. We'll look here and scroll down here. Kirk Lazarus. This one here, a little bit tougher. No doubt about it. Move this over here so I don't have to click back and forth. Kirk Lazarus Conference has 129 total playoff points, including 2 former champions in Dom Valenti and Alan Harvey. Dom Valenti won a couple years ago. Alan Harvey won, seems like ages ago. But, so 40 playoff points for him. And then, of course, the most decorated, I believe the most decorated player to not win. Oh, hey, I forgot my music. Here we go. This is more like it. Kirk Lazarus Conference, we have Dom Valenti, Alan Harvey. They've both won championships. Brian David is the most decorated non-winner ever. He's made it to the finals multiple times, or Final Four multiple times, at the very least. A lot of points on here, though. Josh Crampton's historically a great owner. Neil Seagraves as well. My dad, although his record would show otherwise. 61-66, 48% winning percentage. Not great. And then we have Mick DeBow, Kyle Stoker, and Chris Russell. All 3 people who've made the playoffs. Not gone very far, though. Kyle Stoker, that means he won his conference at one point in time, having a 2. Christopher Russell means he was in the first round. And then Mick DeBow with 3, 27-24, 15-10, 19-18. Overall, a 54-4 winning percentage, 386 wins, 129 playoff points, though. And that's because you have 2 defending champions and Brian David in here. So I'm going to go back to Lebowski Conference here. My prediction for this one, I'm going to say Bonnie Monahan is finally going to, well, I don't think she's going to get over the hump, but I think she's going to win this conference, even though Cloacal Kiss won last year. I don't care. Monahan has something to prove. She joined the league when she was intoxicated, apparently, but it's fine. And then going to Kirk Lazarus Conference, man, I do not have great faith in Alan Harvey. He has not done well ever since he won that. Dom Valenti is phenomenal, as you can see by the number of points has here. Brian David, though, man, just one of these days he's going to get over the hump. And then, of course, you have a bunch of people who've never played before. Rob Gork, David Dalton, Bobby Wood. Intern has played, but he has never made the playoffs. Only played 1 year. If I had to guess, I'm going to say Dom Valenti, password is taco, takes the crown. So that's Kirk Lazarus Conference. Now we're going to go down to the Ron Burgundy Conference. We're going to do a breakdown of the Burgundy Conference here. We have a lot of playoff points here. 2 former champions, including the return of Ashley Cromwell. Brady O'Bush won a couple years ago in that infamous husband versus wife battle that allegedly had no collusion. And then a long time ago, Matt Farmer won this league. I don't remember what year, but it was a minute ago. But look at the numbers here in terms of playoff points. So you have Ashley with 23, Matt Farmer with 23, so both of them are very involved. Then you also have Paul Ward, who's Mullen Incorporated, I believe is how it's pronounced, as well as, man, there's a whole bunch of them here. Aaron King, 19 points. Paul Smith, 17. And, of course, Pat Provost, 17. Or 19, rather. Jeremy Orr, 14. Jeff Arbogast, 10. Cody Cole has made it to the playoffs one time with his staggering 34-49 record. That is not fantastic, but we love you, Cody Cole. And then we have 3 new owners in Richard Chapman, William Miller, Bubba Garrity. Not the greatest conference to fall into, folks, but that's the way it goes. It's completely randomized. If I were going to make a wager here, my preseason prediction. Oh, and Jeremy Orr's Kakamba's there. I don't know if I mentioned him or not. My preseason prediction is going to be Paul Ward. It's going to get there. It's going to get the hump. It's going to take that conference, even though, it's tough to win these things, people. That's what I'm saying. That's why I'm not all about the people who've won before. Matt Farmer has had a rough go of it here lately. He had a great year a couple years ago, but so Paul Ward is my preseason prediction for this one. And then we get down to the Jeff Spicoli conference here, and let's do this one. So let's look at this one. They're doing the breakdown of the Jeff Spicoli conference. 2 champions here, including Louis Diana, who is back, one of the returning champions who came back for this special 10th edition season. And then Dom Valenti, one of the most decorated players or owners in the history of the league here, has 40 points. Louis Diana with 21, although I had completely forgotten. I thought he won and then left, but he actually won and then came back the next year and stunk it up pretty hardcore, as owners tend to do. It is very difficult to win this thing multiple times. There's no doubt about it. In this league, in this conference, you also have a couple of perennial playoff players: Cale Seagraves, Rob Bradley, Josh Griner's back for the first time in multiple years, so he's always been pretty good with 10 playoff points. They have 121, so not quite as high as either of the previous 2, Ron Burgundy and Kirk Lazarus, but still really good. I think that, Don Valenti's tough to count out. He has 2 teams, in case you can't tell. But, I don't know, man. There's a lot of good owners up here. Rob Jazerski is a great owner. Don Mulkey. Josh Griner's back. We have a couple new owners in Stephen Bailey. He's the only new owner. Paul Brown and Rob Aiken still trying to get the playoffs for the first time. My preseason prediction is going to be the Apache Chiefs takes this conference just because it's his time, I think. So there's that. The Jeff Spicoli conference. Louis Diana might prove me wrong, but I don't think so. He did great in the playoff challenge, or in the whatever they're called. I'm going to put some chapters in this thing too, so you can skip right to these things if you want. I'll put that in the Facebook page. Then we go back. We're going to go back to Frank Drebbin. Now so you'll find quickly there's a pretty big drop in playoff pedigree in these last couple conferences here. And again, when we randomize, you have 2 champions in multiple conferences. You have multiple conferences with 0 champions, this being one of them. In fact, no one even cracks the 20s in playoff points in this conference here, or the next one. So when you look at it, historically, I think your odds-on favorite's probably going to be Michael Myers to win this conference. He's got 15 playoff points with an 87-70 record. However, his winning percentage is not as good as Josh Crampton, who has 13 playoff points, 113 wins, 82, because he usually has 2 teams. That's how he has so many points, in case you're wondering. Larry Weinberg also right here. These 3 guys here are going to be your probable key competitors, but Antoine Bacon, Rocky Keeling, Corey Brewer, they've all been there. Cassandra Seagraves has even been in the playoffs a couple times. Paul Wallenwine, he made the playoffs 1 time. It's 1 year he's done it. He's 7-5 with a 58% winning percentage. So technically, in the winning percentage category, he's the odds-on favorite. Couple new owners here. We got Parker Dalton, who did very well in the prop bet sheets that we did during the playoffs. Caden Sutherland and James St. Germain, who's a customer of mine at Verizon. We'll see how they do, But if I'm going to predict this one, I'm going to go. I'm going to say Josh Crampton going to win this conference if I had to guess. So got to get there at some point. It's got to get there at some point. So that's the Drebbin Conference. We got 3 more to go. Oh my God, there's a lot of conferences. So let's go to the Brody Bruce Conference. Oh, and by the way, if you look at the number of points in Frank Drebbin, 57, which is bad, but not as bad as the Brody Bruce Conference here, where we have the highest one is DeWyan with 14 playoff points, 61 and 57 historically. He's a great owner, just hasn't. And he got to the Final Four, I know, at least once. Bob Ames, too, with 12. Tom Farmer, I don't know how he only has 9 playoff points when he's got 82 victories as an owner, but still. Then Granny's Baloney Curtains, which is Cody Provost. He, 8 points. Kevin Wilson and Jordan Cromwell, both a 3. And then a whole slew of zeros here. Andy Plum has been in the league. He's a 10 and 14 record. Eric Hester 6 and 7. Chad Leash 4 and 8. So a bunch of sub 500 teams. But you know, when you're new, you don't know what you're doing. So every year you get experience, unless you're me. And they're going to learn from last year, I'm sure. There's a couple first-time owners last year. Then we have a couple first-time owners this year. Chris Melflory and Tyler Sacita. You never know. I mean, based on what I'm seeing here, I got to go with Gary King, the odds-on favorite to win this. But who knows? Anything can happen. Then we go down to the Rod Kimble Conference. Again, not a lot of playoff pedigree here, but we're going to go through it, breaking it down. Rod Kimble, we have a couple of, not a lot of, no winners, but a couple key things. 3 very solid owners. 4 historically solid owners. A lot of solid owners, just in terms of where they've gone playoff. Sarah Krasansky with 22 playoff points, 66 and 59 career record. Ryan Frazier, 20 playoff points, 65 and 63 record. Those two are going to go head-to-head for this. Although, funny enough, Sarah and her brother Ben are both in the same conference this year. Ben has made it to the Final Four at least once. Derek Gregory also with 13 playoff points, a 57% winning percentage. But then the highest winning percentage is the return of Melissa Garrity, who definitely does not have 0 playoff points. I'm not sure why it says that. Let's see if I can go to Melissa Garrity. I have all these points here. 16 should have been the correct answer on this one. Not sure why it shows 0, but whatever. We'll put that on there, and that all of a sudden puts them up to 112 overall, so they're very good. Melissa Garrity has the highest winning percentage by a pretty substantial margin, 61% versus 57.5, then 56.3 for Ben Miller. So if I'm gonna guess on this one, oh man, I'm gonna say I gotta go with Melissa Garrity. Gotta go with her. That's my prediction for that one. And then finally we get to the Napoleon Dynamite Conference, which again, no conference or no muscle champions at all. A bunch of new owners in this one too, man. Holy smokes. So here's what we got. Returning owners, we have Tony Cromwell, who's got to be the odds-on favorite to win this one, who came in second place once. Also, Lennon Seagraves, my son, came in second place once. So we got 2 people who've come in second place, and then a bunch of, well, that's not true. Vincent Vallada, 70% winning percentage. Phenomenal. Probably the highest in the league, I think. We have, so don't count that out. Justin Redding's never made the playoffs, but, again, he's learning every year. And then the following, they have, look at this, 5 new teams. Evan Seagraves, Scott Mukovitz, Amber Cole, Eric Hester, and Stephanie Bradley. Of course, the Bradleys are entirely invested in this league now. All 4 members of that family have it, including the defending champion, Maddie Bradley. So you never can count them out. If I'm going on this one, I got to go Tony Cromwell, although Tom Farmer is in this damn league too, and Don Knapp, Dustin Hanson. A lot of significantly above average performers here, but only a couple people have made it very far. Got to go with Tony Cromwell, although Vincent Vallada would not surprise me in the slightest if they won this conference. So there's that. If you break it down to total up all the points here, let's go with this. Go to playoff points down. The hardest, hey, we got a phone call in the background. That's great. If we go to the total points, the Ron Burgundy Conference is stacked to be the hardest. Kirk Lazarus second, Jeff Spicoli third. Each one of those conferences have 2 champions in them. Sorry, I got background noise that's messing me up. And then we have Jeff Lebowski down there a little bit with 1 champion. Who was that champion again in the Lebowski conference? Let's look here. Oh, that was Maddie Bradley from last year. So that's how that works. That's where we're at. And so that's your playoff breakdown. Hopefully that music worked. I don't know. It's the first time ever trying that. So, and then we're gonna go finally we're at 47 minutes. This is the longest podcast by a mile. Probably most people aren't here, so I'm gonna make a separate section of this. But we're gonna talk about the super squares, which I have called ultra squares on here. But this is a concept that we're gonna try. We're gonna try it and see how it goes. So, you know what? I'm going to do this on a separate recording. So we'll talk about this later. Anyway, if you have any questions, I can't take the background talk, so I got to go. If you have any questions, shoot me a message, Facebook me, text me, 517-879-7804. Hopefully you enjoyed that breakdown. Good luck. I'll be back one more time before the season starts. I'm also going to do a separate video on these super squares / ultra squares. So we'll talk later. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day.